What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Guys, with another little report here on who the Indianapolis Colts might be looking at in that potential first round. Benjamin Albright, who is a reporter for Broncos flagship, so he's a Broncos insider. He was getting asked about Loveland to the Broncos, because the Broncos are still looking for some tight end help as well as some other things in this draft. But he said that the Broncos likely will be looking elsewhere because they may think that there's another tight end with a different skill set out there for them. And there's a little bit of an injury concern when it comes to Loveland. So this person asked what teams have been most connected to Loveland, and Benjamin Albright mentions the Colts and the Chargers. Now, obviously, the Chargers, not a surprise in the slightest, Cody. You know, Loveland's former coach in Harbaugh from his time at Michigan. So obviously there is there's some connection there for those type of guys. And of course, the Chargers are potentially looking for a tight end as well to add to that offense. But you also have the situation of the Colts get brought into this. Now, I don't know, Cody, if Benjamin mentions it just because the Colts, are looking at all the tight ends because of their big need for tight end, or if that truly means that the Colts have really been in constant contact with Colston Loveland. It kind of goes back into the point we were talking about a bunch this offseason, where if Tyler Warren isn't available at 14, do the Indianapolis Colts take a chance on Loveland? Because it sure sounds like they've had a lot of talks with him.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think that's been the guy that I have really looked at there for the Indianapolis Colts to get, right? Because it's going to be hard, man, for Tyler Warren to get to 14 where the Indianapolis Colts sit. Now, would I love it? Absolutely. But I don't think that there's like this massive, massive gap as much as people thought earlier on in the offseason between these two. Yeah, when you look at Tyler Warren, all around, he's a better player, right? He's more well-rounded. He's a really, really good blocker. He's a good receiver. But the thing that I look at when I look at Colston Loveland, Derek, is the fact that he's only, 20 years old. He's very young. He's got a pretty good frame on him. He's 6'6". He's 250 pounds. Can definitely put on some weight there and continue to build out that frame. And yeah, I don't think he's as good a blocker as a Tyler Warren is, but I do think he has probably a higher ceiling than Warren when it comes to the receiving game, right? Like, he is a pure receiver in a lot of different ways, right? And I just think that is what the Colts have really been lacking. Like, they have guys that can block on their team. Like, they brought back Mo Alley-Cox, who's one of the best run-blocking tight ends, just blocking tight ends in general in the NFL. Now, they have a guy like Drew Ogletree, who is very, very good in that department as well. But what they really lacked, and I think what they didn't see from a guy like Kylan Granson last year, was a guy that can take the top off of defenses, right? A guy that can – over the middle, short to intermediate routes, and even sometimes long routes, can go and torch a defense. It can just be another facet of another receiving option and just another weapon that can go downfield, because we saw the Colts wide receivers, when all three guys are healthy, and maybe you can even throw four in there, depending how you view A.D. Mitchell, but you really do feel good about your wide receiver room, right? You feel like you have a good wide variety of guys with different skill sets, but it just feels like for tight end, you don't have a guy specifically that can be that vertical threat down the field, right? And I think either Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland can be that guy. But I think Colston Loveland has the opportunity here, Derek, especially if he bulks up 5, 10, 15 more pounds, to really be a force. I do believe if he gets better, or if he gets bigger and stronger as he continues to grow into that frame, I do think he can have some upside to be a better blocker than we saw in college, right? And I think we also, what happened last year with Michigan's, let's just call it as it is, god-awful quarterback situation last year, it kind of, I think, led some people to be down on Colston Loveland, I think a little bit too much, right? So I do believe he is a very good prospect, and, initially talking about trading down to get him, but Derek, I think he's a kid that is just scratching the surface on what he can become as a tight end and as a player. And I think if you just continue to, if you add him to this Indianapolis offense, I think he definitely right away can be a very, very impactful receiving option for you right away there in the first round. So, yeah, I'm not surprised at all that Colston Loveland's there. I do believe, Derek, the pick will be tight end, whether it's Tyler Warren, whether it's Colston Loveland. I just think you can't afford to just kind of kick the can down the road or, afford to wait until round 2, round 3, because there's some really, really good tight ends here that I think can immediately upgrade your offense, can immediately help out your quarterback. And let's face it, Derek, your quarterback, Anthony Richardson, he didn't have a lot of help from his tight ends a year ago, right? Especially in the receiving game. So you absolutely need it. You absolutely need this type of tight end. So it's good to hear that the Colts are very, very in on Colston Loveland.
I don't see this tight end group as like what some people would say, like when it comes to the running back room this year in this draft, where, a lot of us are saying, like the running back room, you don't need to get the Trevion Hendersons or the Omarion Hamptons or the Caleb Johnsons of this draft. You don't need to get one of those. Obviously, those guys are better than the guys that are falling, but you feel for like a number 2 spot in the running back room, for the Colts, you can wait until later in the draft to get one because you're likely thinking there's still going to be one there that can fill that role very well. I don't think it's the same thing as the tight end room. I know that there have been some people like recently in the Colts community that have been saying that they don't want to spend an early draft pick on a tight end because they don't think that there's that much of a difference between what guys like Warren and Loveland would give you versus guys like Terrence Ferguson and others would give you. I strongly disagree with that notion. This isn't a case of the Indianapolis Colts just need any tight end from this class and they're going to immediately be able to plug them in and do all these great things. I don't see it that way. It is not the same as a running back situation because likely difference between the running back situation and the tight end situation, as I said, running back 2 is what you're trying to fill right now. You have Jonathan Taylor, one of the best running backs in the league. You don't need a guy that's going to try to take away a lot of snaps from him. You just need a guy with a particular skill set that you need in a running back 2 that will benefit your scheme. You don't have a true number 1 tight end right now. You need an every down tight end that is going to be out there every snap of the game. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but for 90% of the snaps, being out there that can do everything at a high level. And there is nothing that the bottom guys of the tight end class can do for that. I know that a lot of people think that they can, but I'm very not so optimistic about it because, again, there is a major drop-off in talent when it comes to guys like Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, and then you start going further down the list. There is a difference because you have to look at the production in college. You have to look at the talent. You have to look at the athletics. You have to look at the fundamentals. There is just a huge difference. And for Loveland, I understand where a lot of people are coming from when it comes to, wanting to get – I've now even seen the narrative change so much, Cody, about Loveland that there are legitimate people that are saying now you should take him over Warren. Like if Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are there at 14, you take Colston Loveland. I don't know what has happened, Cody, that has made people think that, but it's driving me crazy. I love it. It's hilarious. I am never in a million years thinking that Colston Loveland should be above Tyler Warren. I know people say, watch the film. I have watched the film, okay? Both guys are very good players, but I will tell you this. There's that injury concern when it comes to Colston Loveland. There hasn't been one for Tyler Warren. Now, it very well could change in the NFL, Cody, because Tyler Warren is a bigger guy, and that could potentially be a bad thing for him going down the road. Remember, we talked about it's a Rob Gronkowski effect. Remember, Rob Gronkowski was very, very good for quite some time, but he could have gone longer. The problem is all that wear and tear on his body because he's so much bigger and taking all those hits and all that falling to the ground, it takes a bigger toll on you versus some other guys that typically don't take as much of a punishment because they're a little bit smaller. So that's typically how that goes with this. Like I said, I have come to the conclusion the early part of this draft process, I would not have wanted Colston Loveland at 14. I'm willing to accept it now. I wouldn't be my favorite thing for the Colts to take him at 14, but if you felt that that was what you needed to do for the future of your tight end room and you felt that was worth it, then I'm fine with the Colts doing it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think either tight end. I think you almost have to take a tight end because going back to what you said real quick, like this isn't a running back situation, right? Where you can get a guy, late day 2, third round or whatever. Like, let's face it, Derek, you look at pretty much any other position on this roster right now. I mean, look at every other position. Like you talk about QB, running back, even like you mentioned. I know you have a need there, but you have your running back one. Wide receiver, same way. Offensive line, yeah, you have a need there. But if you were playing tomorrow, you could have some guys legitimately be your starters. Defensive end, same way. Like that's a need potentially, but you have some projected starters. Same with, linebacker. Same with the DBs. But tight end is the only one, Derek, that you can't clearly definitively say we have a tight end number 1 on the roster. You just can't. You can't say that. Your second best tight end is a 31-year-old tight end that's never proven he can be anything more than a occasional receiving option and a run blocker. Like the cupboard is that bare at tight end. It is not bare anywhere else on your roster except for tight end. So I think, like you said, the notion of you don't need to take a tight end in round 1, I think, Derek, it's ludicrous, to be honest with you, because that is such an obvious, glaring hole on this roster. And I hear people saying, taking an offensive lineman, taking a defensive lineman, that would be, the better option here for the Indianapolis Colts, but I disagree. And I'm a guy that's been a huge pass rush proponent, a huge edge guy. But I just think you can't afford to hope and pray that another tight end falls there on day 2. Because in my mind, there's really only 1 or 2 other tight ends that I'm really confident can come in and be some sort of immediate impact. I just don't really think, and I don't necessarily know if they're going to be there at pick 45 for the Colts, right? So I just think in order to save yourself so much trouble, go and take a tight end here in round number 1. Right. And again, some other needs are definitely something you need to address at some point, but they're not 2025 concerns. They're 2026 concerns, 2027 concerns. This is a 2025 concern, is the tight end position. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I just think that, frankly, we're just ready. There's so much prospect fatigue right now with so many players, where you kind of I see some people almost poking holes in players where it's you just don't even need to do that. It's unnecessary at this point, right? But I do believe that either way, I'm totally confident that both these players are going to be good players if they stay healthy, obviously, at the pro level. But, I mean, I think definitely Tyler Warren's more of a finished product right now, but I think Colston Loveland projects a little bit more he has a higher ceiling, right? I think Tyler Warren's reached more of his ceiling, while Colston Loveland still can grow into that ceiling a little bit more. But either way, Derek, I mean, they have a similar frame, to be honest with you. I know a lot of people talk about Colston Loveland can't do this, can't do that. But Derek, the reality is Colston Loveland's only about, a little over 5 to 10 pounds difference than Tyler Warren. So if he grows into that frame, he can easily be what Tyler Warren is at 6'6", 255 pounds. Loveland's only, you see, they have him listed at 6'6", 248. So it's not like he's this completely smaller and he's never going to get into that. He can get to that. I think if you can coach that, right? You can coach him as he's growing and as he's putting on the weight to be a better blocker. right? You can coach him on those things, but what are the things you can't coach? I think those are some of the things that make a guy like Colston Loveland so appealing because of the upside he has as a receiver. Now, obviously, like you said, the injury concerns, they are the biggest thing for me. How do you feel about that when it comes to Colston Loveland? That's the big question mark. But regardless of that, Derek, I don't think you can go wrong here, to be honest with you. I think either player here would be fantastic for Indianapolis at pick 14 in the first round. And I think either way, you're immediately having an upgrade at your tight end room, and that's all you can ask for.
Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. That's Benjamin Albright breaking that the Colts and the Chargers have been some of the teams that have had the most connection with Michigan tight end Colston Loveland during this draft process. But that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.